Welcome to Potty, May 04, 20... Alright, so today we're diving deep into something that honestly sounds like a cyberpunk novel but is very real. North Korea has basically built the world's most sophisticated cryptocurrency theft operation. We're talking about the Lazarus Group stealing over $1.5 billion just this year. And here's the kicker. They're not just hacking from the outside anymore. They've been embedding operatives as actual developers inside major DeFi protocols for years. Jordan, when I first saw these headlines about 577 million zolens stolen in 18 days, I thought it had to be hyperbole, but the more I dug into this, the more wild it gets.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me North Korean hackers are literally working as legitimate developers inside these crypto protocols? Like, they're getting hired and contributing code while simultaneously planning to rob the place? That's insane. And $577 million in less than 3 weeks? How is that even possible? I mean, I knew North Korea was into cyber warfare, but this sounds like they've turned it into an actual business model.
Exactly, and that's what makes this so different from typical cybercrime. This isn't some random hacker group trying to get rich. This is a state-sponsored operation directly funding North Korea's nuclear weapons program. The scale is just staggering. So there's this headline about a record-breaking $1.5 billion theft from a Dubai-based exchange called Bybit in February. And according to reports, the Lazarus Group immediately started their laundering process to support the regime's nuclear ambitions. We're not talking about buying Lamborghinis here. This money is literally going into missile development.
Okay, that's genuinely terrifying when you put it that way. So every successful hack is essentially funding weapons that could threaten global security. But I'm still stuck on this insider developer thing. How long has this been going on? And how good are these people at actually coding? Because if they're bad developers, wouldn't other people notice?
So, here's what's really wild. There's reporting that suggests North Korean IT workers have been embedded in DeFi protocols since DeFi summer back in 2020. And apparently they're actually pretty good developers. Think about that timeline. They've been playing the long game for 4 years. They're not just sleeper agents. They're contributing legitimate code, building trust, getting access to critical systems. And then when the time is right, boom. One source mentions a blockchain expert saying these embedded workers are skilled contributors, which makes this so much more insidious than your typical hack and run operation.
That's actually brilliant in a really disturbing way. So they're building credibility and insider knowledge over years. But wait, you mentioned something about blind signatures earlier. What's that about? And how did they actually pull off that massive Bybit theft?
Right, so the Bybit situation is fascinating from a technical standpoint. There is reporting that Ethereum security experts suspect the Lazarus Group gained control of a cold wallet. That's supposed to be the most secure type of crypto storage, and use something called blind signatures to authorize transactions. Now, I don't want to get too deep into the cryptographic weeds, but basically blind signatures let you get authorization for a transaction without the authorizer seeing exactly what they're signing. It's like getting someone to sign a blank check, except with cryptocurrency. The social engineering aspect here is just as sophisticated as the technical side.
So they're not just good at coding, they're good at manipulating people too. That's a scary combination. But here's what I don't understand. If all this money is being stolen and everyone knows it's North Korea, why isn't more being done to stop it? I mean, you mentioned they've laundered $300 million, but are still holding $170 million that's unlaundered according to some research firm called Chainalysis. Shouldn't that be easier to track and freeze?
That's the million-dollar question. Literally. And this gets to the fundamental challenge with cryptocurrency and especially DeFi, decentralized finance. Traditional financial crime enforcement works because there are centralized choke points. Banks, payment processors, exchanges that governments can pressure or regulate. But DeFi protocols are designed to be permissionless and borderless. When you have state actors who've embedded themselves as legitimate contributors to the very systems they're exploiting. The traditional don't trust, verify model breaks down because the verification systems themselves might be compromised from within.
Oh, wow. So it's not just that they're stealing crypto, they're undermining the entire security model that crypto is built on. That's actually really scary for the whole industry. But let me ask you this. There's a headline about how crypto is fighting back against North Korea. Are there actually effective countermeasures being developed? Or is this more of a cat and mouse game where the hackers are always one step ahead?
So that's an interesting framing in that headline, and honestly, my read is that the crypto industry is still playing catch up. The challenge is that North Korea has turned this into a professional state-sponsored operation with long-term strategic planning. While the crypto space has traditionally relied on pseudonymous development and decentralized governance, you can't fight a nation-state level threat with the same security models you'd use against individual bad actors. The fact that they've been embedded since 2020 and we're just now really understanding the scope suggests the countermeasures have been inadequate.
That makes sense. So, what do you think happens next? I mean, if this keeps escalating at this pace, surely something has to give, right? Either the crypto industry figures out how to secure itself better, or governments step in with much heavier regulation.
Based on what we're seeing, the embedded developers, the increasing sophistication, the direct weapons funding, I think we're looking at a fundamental shift in how DeFi protocols operate. My prediction is that within the next 12 to 18 months, we'll see major protocols implementing mandatory identity verification for core contributors. That would completely change the pseudonymous development culture that has defined this space. And given that we're talking about direct funding of nuclear weapons programs, I wouldn't be surprised if regulatory agencies start classifying certain DeFi protocols as national security risks by 2025. This is pattern matching from limited signals, not first principles research, but the trajectory seems pretty clear.
Wow, so we could be looking at the end of anonymous crypto development as we know it. That's a huge shift. But I have to ask, with all these thefts happening, and North Korea apparently being so successful at this, are other nation states taking notes? Could this become a more widespread problem?
That's actually a really important question, and it's something that keeps me up at night. North Korea has essentially proven that cryptocurrency can be weaponized by authoritarian regimes to circumvent international sanctions and fund prohibited weapons programs. They've shown that the combination of technical sophistication, long-term strategic thinking, and state resources can overcome most existing security measures. The success of these operations creates a playbook that other bad actors could follow. And here's what's really concerning. This isn't just about stealing money anymore. This is about undermining the entire international sanctions regime that has been a cornerstone of diplomatic pressure for decades.
That's genuinely terrifying. So what should people do if they're involved in crypto or DeFi? Should they be worried about the protocols they're using? And what should the average person who just holds some Bitcoin or Ethereum be thinking about?
For individual holders, the direct risk is probably low. North Korea isn't targeting your personal wallet. But if you're using DeFi protocols, especially newer or smaller ones, you should definitely be more cautious about due diligence. Look at who's developing the protocol, what kind of security audits they've had, how they handle contributor verification. And honestly, this whole situation highlights why you should never put more into DeFi than you can afford to lose completely. The bigger picture issue is that this could accelerate regulatory crackdowns that change the entire landscape. My advice? Stay informed, diversify your risk, and don't assume that because something is decentralized, it's automatically secure.
That's really solid advice. Before we wrap up, I want to go back to something that just blows my mind. The fact that North Korea is apparently holding $170 million in stolen crypto that they haven't even laundered yet. That suggests they're stealing money faster than they can even process it. What does that tell us about the scale of this operation?
Yeah, that's actually a really telling detail. When you're stealing money faster than you can launder it, that suggests this has become an industrial scale operation. It's not artisanal crime anymore. This is mass production. And it reinforces that this isn't just about getting rich quick. This is about building a sustainable funding mechanism for the regime. The fact that they can afford to sit on $170 million while they figure out the best way to clean it shows they're thinking strategically about long-term cash flow, not just grabbing what they can and running. It's honestly more sophisticated than a lot of legitimate businesses I've seen.
All right, so to wrap this up, what's the key takeaway for our listeners? This seems like one of those stories that's going to keep developing and getting more important over time.
The key takeaway is that we're witnessing a fundamental shift in how nation-states can use cryptocurrency to circumvent international pressure and fund prohibited activities. North Korea has essentially industrialized crypto theft and turned it into a strategic weapon. This isn't just a financial crime story, it's a national security story that's going to reshape how we think about both cryptocurrency regulation and international sanctions. For anyone involved in crypto, the days of assuming you can operate in a regulatory gray area are probably numbered. And for everyone else, this is a reminder that technology is never politically neutral. The same innovations that promise financial freedom can also be weaponized by authoritarian regimes. Keep watching this space, because it's going to get a lot more complicated before it gets simpler.